WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and our website, www.wvtcdetroit.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. Thank you for tuning to WVTC Radio Detroit and the Community Bell Show with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner, Edna Bell. Stay tuned for insightful information Detroiters will find valuable. Text a friend and tell them to watch with you for news you can use. And now, your host, Edna Bell.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. It's Community Bell Show. And the Bell is not with us today, but I'm Dwight Harris. I will be your host today. And you could be a witness. You could be a witness. You could be a witness. Today's topic will be a real interesting topic about foster care, adoption, and community responsibility. And when I think about foster care, I think about my life. I was raised by my great-grandmother, and that's all I knew as a child growing up, that my great-grandmother was my mom, and I called her my mom for a long time, knowing that I was on the verge of going into foster care, understanding that today, and studying and looking and working on the ground and trailblazing when it comes to our children, trying to save them from going into foster care or any institution that would contrary from their home in our community. That a lot of those experiences can be traumatic. And I want to introduce today to you Tamika Merriman, who's the COO of Adoption Option. Uh, we also want to talk about why do foster care affects everyone, and even those without children are affected when we think about foster care and fostering children. And these are our community children. When we look at our children, and they are not just the system's problem. So today I want to introduce Tamika Merriman to the Community Bell Show, and I want to thank you for coming.
No problem. I'm really excited to be here. And thank you so much for telling a little bit about foster care. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come is to do just that, educate people about foster care. Sometimes I feel like kids in foster care get a bad rap. People don't really understand the process on how foster care becomes a thing. And so having a chance to have a conversation to really educate our community and let them know that there's more to it than that. And there are many, many ways that you can be helpful and help families who are going through a traumatic time, because having CPS involved in your life can be very traumatic. And we all have a responsibility to help our kids.
And I know that a lot of times in today's society, we hear a lot about aging out of foster care, and I know we'll get deeper into it, but I believe that there's a misunderstanding when it comes to caring for our children in the community, and really what the foster care program is really all about, and how do this program affects us, how do it helps us in our community? How do it allow our families to be able to get over a lot of the barriers that they face every day? And when you think about foster care, we have to think about CPS, the CPS complaint. And so the thing why this conversation is so important is because
So I want to start with this stat. So the Annie Casey Foundation completed a study in 2023. It takes us a while to compile data, so 2023 is the most recent data. But the world may not know, but there are 176,340 kids in foster care in the United States.
that's a lot.
10,000 of those kids are in Michigan.
Wow.
And that's according to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So that's why it becomes a community problem, because there are so many kids who are affected by the system. And most of the kids who are brought into foster care are brought into foster care for issues with poverty and neglect. And a lot of our African American families are the ones that are struggling the most with poverty. So let me give you a little bit of history before, or a little bit of an explanation of the process before we continue. Number one, foster care's goal is reunification. The whole plan is to work with the family, work with the children to bring the family back together. So the process works like this. CPS gives a call of an allegation of abuse or neglect. They have to go out and do an investigation. Foster care workers are not investigators. We do not investigate. However, when CPS completes their investigation, they have to prove to a court whether there's a preponderance of evidence. That means enough evidence to prove that it is unsafe for a child to be at home. If that is proven, then the child is removed from that home, and then we're brought in to help repair and fix those issues. A lot of times we find that parents are in such turmoil, a lot of mental health issues, a lot of substance abuse, and it's not always easy to work with the parents to get the children back home. That's why we need foster parents, people who can provide loving homes for these children while we work with the parents to help them overcome their barriers. And so while we're working with the parents simultaneously, foster parents are there to work with the children. Both parents and children are getting services during that time frame, and we try to bring them back together. And sometimes we can, and sometimes
But
we
that's
can't.
such a misunderstanding about fostering in our community where people, it's like taboo. Like, how do we explain to people why fostering it's not taboo, and why is it something that we should adopt. People should adopt that can foster in our community. Why is that so
So
important?
it's important because a lot of times we hear what we hear in the media, right?
Yeah.
And it's always the kids, these kids, especially the teenagers. But I want to say, kind of what I already spoke about is that the kids don't come into foster care because of the kids. They come into care because they have been abused or neglected in some way. And so, if you have been in a home where you have suffered from abuse and neglect, but this is all you know, this is your normal, and then someone that you don't know, a complete stranger, a CPS worker comes in and says, everything is wrong. You can no longer be here. Are you not expected to have some negative results? Are you not expected to
Yeah.
have questions? Are you not expected to have feelings and emotions about you're going to remove me from everything that I know? And I didn't know that it was wrong. I know that I don't like being hit. I know that I don't like not being able to go to the doctor. I know that I'm supposed to be in school, but I also know that my mother loves me. I also know that my father loves me. This is just our normal. This is just how we operate. And so sometimes people hear, oh, these kids are acting out. These kids are so bad. It's not the kids. The kids are dealing with the circumstances that they have in front of them.
So I've like when I think about children uh that have been affected traumatically in the community, and then I think about the community of people that lives down the street, neighbors, or even family members.
Right.
What I've learned working crisis for over 2 years now and working in the mental health field is that the family don't understand. And a lot of times when a family don't understand a child, and a child get in trouble or something happened with the mother where the child has to get removed, then the people in the neighborhood won't reach out to try to help the child. When before, when I was a child in the 70s, in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
there were families, and those families would care for a child if somebody in the neighborhood wasn't able or there was some type of complaint. So there, that's where the gap of services at and where those barriers are. How do you think that we can fill in those gaps of services right there for our children get lost in the system because people don't believe in
Yeah.
fostering?
So I think that's a great question. So I would say this, times have changed and it's not always it takes a village. That thought process is just not there anymore. Sometimes it's just not safe. You never know what family members may say about you caring for a child, and the system is not providing the financial assistance or the food assistance and the things needed for our neighborhoods to be able to take care of this child or this family. So I think it's important that we get back to the basics and we rally around each other. So maybe if the system can't do it, that the neighbor down the street and this neighbor can come together to help, this family. And so I think that too, before 4 years ago, it wasn't a thing of kinship care.
Yeah.
Kinship care is a thing now where your neighbor can now take care of the child and they can receive payments without going through the whole licensing process. Because sometimes people get afraid of that licensing process.
And so can they do that with you? Like a lot of people in our community don't know that they can do these things, that they can help children. Can they do that with adoption option?
Yes. So Adoption Option now has an office in Wayne County. We are located in the new center building. And so we are actively looking for people in the community, whether it's just the neighborhood mom or the auntie down the street, or however you see yourself in the community, who are willing to step up and say, hey, if so-and-so down the street or my neighbor is having an issue, I know these kids, they come get snacks, they play with my kids, sign me up. I will help out. And that is something we can do at Adoption Option.
And also going forward, some of the things that Icon 10 do, we want to help Adoption Option when it comes to uh, recruiting parents.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know anybody that really wants to foster our children, there is a really a need. Just imagine if you're a child and something happened to you. Unfortunately, what happens to your child? Would you want your family to be a caregiver, or the friends and the people down the street? Well, I see today a lot of times we don't have relationships with our
Yeah.
neighbor, and these are um, sacred things. These are testaments. These are truths that we must be friends to our neighbor. It's a spiritual quest that we have in our neighborhood. But however, we don't seek the quest no more. We seek to be separate. So in this, in order to be able to save our children, some point it's not the child, it's the people in the community.
Well, the Bible tells us, God says, take care of his widows and his orphans.
Yeah.
And so while we don't have kids actively living in orphanages, we do have kids who need that love and that care. And I want to say too that when we don't step up in our communities, these kids are then sent out way away from their community, way away from everything that they know. And it's hard to get them back. They end up being adopted. I mean, our agency's home office is in Midland, Michigan. That's 1 hour and 45 minutes away from the city of Detroit. So imagine having to take a child from Detroit 1 hour and 45 minutes away. Totally different culture, totally different neighborhoods, different than everything that they know. They lose their identity. So this is kind of like a call to action for our community. And in the city of Detroit, we want to keep our kids in the community where they can actively work towards that goal of reunification and getting back to their parents and to their roots. And then a lot of people also are not aware that kinship care includes, those people who are related. Maybe you're a cousin, maybe you're an auntie. You no longer have to go through that licensing process to take placement of your family member. All you have to do is have a loving home and a bed for them to sleep in and a heart to care. And so to be a licensed foster parent, you only have to be 18. You don't have to be married. You don't have to own your own home. All you have to do is be able to pay all of your bills with at least $1 left over, and you can foster if you can provide this child with a bed. And so it's more than just taking in a child. It is helping them, remain close to their roots. It's helping them keep their identity. It's keeping them in the area where they can grow and one day hopefully have a safer relationship with the people in their families.
And so I was raised, I'm 57 years old, and I was raised by my great grandmother. And I was raised by the community as well. And if we would be more community with one another, as opposed to somebody else coming in the middle and telling us that we need to unify. These were things that we naturally done. This was our culture. This was the legacy left in our community, which you don't see today. Yes, the neighbor would help Miss Ann and her grandson when the father or the mother was incarcerated. That was me. Or I can go to the movies with them because I didn't have a mother and father when my mother was in prison and my daddy was in prison. And so I used to receive a lot of people rejecting me because I was considered to be bad and my mom and daddy was in prison, and that made me feel bad most of my life. And so when I think about fostering, I think about you living with someone that's not your mother or your father. And when we think about this in our community, this happens a lot. And then we think about criminality. It's like the youth are squoze off over in the corner and left to what they call survive, in a natural way without education, without understanding what they've been through. And so when you think about the system, if the system failed, foster care system failing, then we're talking about aging out of foster care. But that's something that we'll get into. But I want to make sure.
Well, let me say this before you go there. You touched on a key point when you mentioned the behavior and how when you were growing up, people didn't want you around because they consider you a bad kid. Okay, so I'm gonna bring a little clinical piece in there. And so what we don't realize is that there's an attachment theory. An attachment theory says if you do not connect to your mother and during the pre-infant or the infant stages, that you grow up with some of these behaviors.
Wow.
And so if you do not have that relationship, that sense of self-loving or belonging, you don't get what you need from your mother between the ages of 0 and 5.
Yeah.
Then by the time you reach Head Start and go into first grade, you have anxiety. You could already have some oppositional defiance disorder because you've never learned that I matter, that I'm safe.
Or making a connection,
Making that
a bonding connection with the mother.
And so when you get into Head Start, if the teachers and the programs don't know how to deal with those behaviors and recognize those early, infant mental health services, early on services, then those behaviors just continue as you continue to go through grade school.
Yeah.
And so some of the behaviors that we see in our teens or our kids 8, 9 years old, when you identify as being bad, those behaviors started a long time ago. And so now that we have more and more people thinking about mental health services, more and more people talking about it, D-Win, yourself, and other people who are invested in mental health, you can see how the behavior starts even at 2 and 3 years old.
Yeah.
And so by the time you make it to pre-K or Head Start, you can see when those kids are acting out and they may possibly benefit from mental health services even at 3 and 4 years old.
And I'm a witness to that because that was my experience throughout my life. And because I didn't get in services, I do recall my grandma taking me places to get those services when I was a kid early in the morning, not to go to school, but go with her to the children's center. But those things didn't work. I still ended up going to prison. And so it is my passion to save our children from those going deeper into care because of CPS complaint. How do we help the mothers and the families sustainability in their household so these calls, so our children won't be removed, and then also have something in place that can help the mother when some things are going on, as opposed to just stripping the child from the household. We don't realize that those laws, a lot of things that we have in effect, even though we know it should happen, if we enforce them, it can hurt the whole family.
Let me give you an example of that. So I'm glad that you said that because, we talk about the kids being innocent and these are, things that they suffer that brought them into care. But I do want to state that not all parents who have come into contact with CPS are bad parents. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. And I can give you a quick scenario. There's a grandmother that we came into contact with, and she was now raising her grandchildren. Her daughter, who was a single parent, had a heart attack and just died suddenly. And so this grandmother who was retired had to come out of retirement and start working a job to care for her 2 grandchildren, ages 9 and 12. And so at 9 and 12, the kids had to be home alone after school because grandma had to work. And the only job she can get was the afternoon shift. She didn't have any computer skills, did not have a degree, but she worked her whole life and retired. And so CPS got called because the kids were outside breaking windows in the neighborhood. And so when CPS got called and they seen that there was no adult there, they came in and said a lack of supervision. So we have to remove these kids.
Yeah.
And so now these kids come into foster care when there was a grandmother who was actively trying to feed them and care for them. And with that removal, it would have been cheaper for the state to invest in a babysitter for this grandmother to keep her grandkids who she was trying to love and take care of than it was to bring them into foster care. It costs money daily for kids to be in foster care. And so if we could just switch the finances to actually be more support, we can keep more kids out of the foster care system. And let me say this before you take over. 22% of the kids in foster care are African American, but we only make up 14% of the population.
It's bad.
And so issues like these are the things that bring 22% of our African American and Hispanic kids into foster care. And it easily can be prevented if we just switch the way we use the resources.
Using the resources. And I'm just talking about why this conversation matters. And we're hearing that from Tamika, the COO of Adoption Option. Adoption Option, he is here now in the metropolitan Detroit area, created in Midland, and plan to move across the state, saving our babies. There's so many legal jargons and terminologies that can be spoken when we think about saving our children, but the word is to save our children. Like, what is it that we do, and how do we save our children? And so, Tamika, I want to talk a little bit about your story and your leadership, and your journey from program manager to COO, and why you choose welfare as your work, and what leadership mean in the space built on trauma, hope, and healing, and then how the compassion and accountability guide Adoption Option.
Okay. Great question. So, I started out as a foster care recruiter. It was my job to go out and spread the word and tell people about the need for foster parents. What brought me to child welfare, I think it's just a history. I always say that this is a calling for me and not necessarily a job. I'm the oldest out of all of my siblings. I have 8 brothers and 3 sisters, and we could have very easily become kids in the foster care system. I had an alcoholic stepfather. My mother had substance abuse issues. And there was domestic violence in the home. And so, as the oldest, I think that leadership started then, where I knew that I had to, help my mom and protect my siblings and all of that. And so I originally thought I was going to be a nurse until I took my first human service class. And then God was like, nope, that's not where you're going. And I ended up in the foster care system. And I knew that I could make a difference. And it started with the recruitment. And then from there, I just moved up the chain, to actually case managing. So I have that experience of being in the homes, working with the families, and then supervision, and then program manager. And then I think God made that shift again, and I interviewed with Adoption Option. And I started out as child welfare director. I'm going to take this moment to shout out our CEO, Mr. Lois Leapart. She is an amazing leader who trusted me with that agency and to see what we can do with it. And so from child welfare director, now I am chief administrator and chief operating officer. But we actually service 22 counties, all the way up from Alpena down to Wayne, all the way over from Kalamazoo to Lapeer. I mean, literally wherever we can help, that's where we go. Wherever the call is, wherever the need is. Our mission is to service each child and family as we can. The child reached is a child saved.
And so there was an expansion of a hybrid office here in Detroit just recently. And then why do that accessibility matter for families and foster parents? And how did the growth strengthen service delivery across the community?
Yeah, so we, being a Detroit native, born in Henry Ford Hospital, right on West Grand Boulevard, starting out in Detroit, my passion is, always going to be the urbans, because I feel like that's where the need is. That's where most people are, and I grew up seeing it, people who could use help. So when the opportunity arose for us to be able to grow and expand to Wayne County, I jumped at it because I know this. I've worked child welfare for 10 years in Wayne County, and it was easy. It was a no-brainer. I knew who to contact, who to partner with, so that we could be of service. And so we're at the new center building. I believe is a prime location right in Midtown. We're easily accessible by bus, by, the Q line, all of the above. We're easily accessible. I believe that gives us an opportunity to partner with other nonprofits and provide resources to the children and families that we serve. And like I said, the need is great. Wherever we can help, that's where we go.
So I got a couple questions that people will ask, and I don't know if anybody on the show have any questions, but as we go, if you got any questions, please feel to ask. So you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Common reasons children enter the system.
Poverty and neglect. So a lot of times our families are stricken by poverty. If I can't feed my kids and there's no food at home, and my kid go to school and say I didn't eat yesterday, CPS is called. If I can't afford, my washing machine breaks and we have dirty clothes, I can't go to the laundromat, I have transportation issues, CPS is called. So poverty is the main thing. The next thing is substance abuse. The crack era hit the African-American community like crazy, right? And so since then, and probably before, but since then, we have continued to suffer with substance abuse issues. And so getting the right services to the right people matters.
And so we talked about the parenting struggles. So what about the roles of repeated police complaints and crisis responses when it comes to our children? So I work crisis.
Right.
And a lot of those, we get calls from children that's in foster care. And a lot of times those foster parents sometimes don't know what to do with our children when they're in a crisis.
Yeah, so I think too, by you being a peer support specialist, you may understand it better than a lot of people who've never been through it. If I've never been removed from my family, I've never been afraid to go to sleep at night, not understanding that I'm in a strange place. Foster parents sometimes don't understand what is wrong. I'm providing you with everything you need. You didn't have this when you were at home, but I had the things that I was familiar with. When the lights go out, I'm afraid. I don't know what to expect. I don't know, your uncle that's coming, that's not my family, that's not my bloodline. So it's hard for me until I get comfortable. That's why you need certain foster parents who understand trauma. And I believe that the more that you work with that population and the more that you take the trainings and listen to your workers and the people that are there to support, you can better understand trauma.
And I do want to say, I do know judges over in probate court. I know some of those judges, I won't say names, that's really on the side of the child.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's hard to be on the side of a child if the parent's not right. And what I see, there's really a need for family members to step up. There were a time where family did that, but for some reason we don't tie, we don't neighbor like that no more. But there's a need for us to start practicing. I really believe that the seniors, our seniors, need to start really enforcing that, no matter what the younger, their children or grandchildren, what they say, because it's missing, and it's the only way that we will be able to save our children.
And the seniors could actually benefit from having a teenager around them. I mean, you need somebody to shovel your snow. You need somebody to bring your groceries in. You need somebody to take the trash out and roll the garbage cans to the curb. Not saying that they could necessarily do all of those things only, but if you provide the love, they can provide the labor, and you guys work together in a partnership. And so it's not, every teen that comes into foster care is not bad. And every child that's experiencing trauma or have had traumatic experiences are not bad.
And I want to say, when a person, you or somebody that you make a decision that boy is bad, that's the decision that was made on me. He bad, he's menacing. Send me away. That doesn't make things better.
Right.
I'm home now. I didn't need to do 25 years. So if somebody really cared, somebody helped my grandmother, like nobody can really help her at that time. I was so wild. Like no matter what somebody would have told her or how, Miss Mormon, you can help the white, I was menacing at that time.
And stop asking, why did you do that? And start asking, what happened to you?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't ask, what has happened to you to make you behave this way? Because some behavior is always trying to fill a need. If I'm acting out, I'm throwing a chair across the classroom, maybe I don't know the answer. Maybe I'm struggling with reading. There's a reason that I'm doing this. I'm not doing it for, just for my health.
And so for me, I do a lot of mentoring. I did a lot of mentoring in prison. But when I look at the children out here now, it's the same thing. They're really in a crisis, whether it was a crisis call, but they're making a crisis call with their behavior.
Exactly.
So when I see the behavior as being a crisis call, then I figure out ways, how do we support and help, but our community punish.
Yep.
And so I'm not saying that we're supposed to leave this element in our community to hurt our community. But if we're fast to move to hurt, to punish, then when do we ever correct? And so what I understand,
when do we ever ask, how can we be better? How can we help? In a moment of a crisis, I think you make the difference because you did have that experience. But asking, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
I can't hear you when you are escalated. I don't understand how to help you. What do you need right now in the moment? So that we can be on the same page and I can hear you and you can hear me. And sometimes it's as simple as teaching those coping skills. And the kids don't know how to cope. I don't know how to cope with the fact that I want my mom and I have CPS telling me that I can't be with her. I don't understand why. And no matter how many times we say, but we have all these things, nothing takes the place of a parent. It doesn't matter how long or what has happened. I've had kids who have been abused sexually and physically by their parents, and they still have a yearning to be with their parents.
So as a community, we'll see some things happen in home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or wherever, some adults did something to a child. So you're saying when the community say, take that child away from the mother, we're basically hurting the child. We're not doing justice to the child by rushing to move that kid because of the trauma that the child will be affected by.
Correct. The
Yeah.
removal itself is traumatic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that we should not remove, because there are times where it's just not safe.
Yeah.
But there are instances where we can put services in place, and CPS does. It's not an automatic removal every time. There are times that CPS will put services in place, but when the parents do not take advantage of those services, then removal has to happen. But removal with a plan. We
Yeah.
should remove with reunification in mind. What happens next? Like, how do we get them back as soon as possible? Is it removal for 60 days, 90 days? The average length of a child in foster care is 2 years.
Wow. And so the impact of children, the emotional effect of removals from home is.
Say that one more time.
The emotional effect of removals from children at home.
So
is,
you feel like you don't belong.
Yeah.
You question your identity. Sometimes that creates depression. Sometimes that creates negative behaviors, because I feel like if I act up, then you have no choice but to send me home to my parent. And so also when the kids move and they bounce from house to house, they feel like, what's going to be next? No reason for me to get comfortable here, because they're just going to put me out.
Yeah.
And so now my behavior is going to be, I don't care. I don't care about anything, because I'm not going to be here long enough anyways.
And so that's why the children need support. Even though a person could be fostering a child, that foster parent need help.
Yep.
That's one of the things the Icon 10 do. We come in and help as a supportive service for those who are already fostering our children. It's such a need. Challenges that you face when they leave care. What about that?
So you mentioned a little bit earlier about aging out of foster care. There is a direct correlation with kids who age out of foster care and them entering homelessness.
Yeah.
And then also criminality.
Yeah.
Whether they end up in jail or catching a case.
Yeah.
Because there are times where they have to steal to eat. There are times where they they become victims of human trafficking because they're out on the streets.
Yeah.
And so without having that supportive adult, that mentoring, as you mentioned, we can have our kids end up in a really bad situation by aging out of foster care.
So what about why is permanency matters before adulthood?
It's for those reasons that we just talked about. If I don't know where I belong, if I'm not able to reunify back with my parent, if nobody selected me for adoption, I never got adopted, this is not a forever family, I am likely to fall for anything. Stand for something, fall for anything. I have nothing to stand for if I don't have permanency.
So permanency, that's the word everybody need to understand. We need our children to be permanently somewhere.
Right.
If they're not permanently somewhere, they're suffering traumatically. And when they age out of foster care, those statistics of these child going and doing other things and not being successful sits there. When we look at our community, we got to say, like, we hold some of the responsibility, even though we didn't have the child. We did, because the mother is our child. Like, we're all children of a community. When you look at it like that, and we look at a village and raising our children, we have a responsibility. These things used to occur, though.
Yeah.
They happen in our community, but some they've been taken away. So how can the community
before you say that, some of these people that we now say those YNs, right?
Yeah.
Some of those YNs were affected by the foster care system.
Yeah.
Some of those YNs never got the services, or they came into foster care when they were of age to refuse services, which is 14. And so if I never get mental health services, I never get permanency, I never feel like I belong. Now I'm joining gangs.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing all these things to get that belonging feeling.
And what's crazy is, like, when you look, like, we'll look at the news and we'll see all these things, but we're not realizing that these children may have been in foster care.
Correct.
Or a lot of these children were aged out of foster care. They never had permanency. They never had permanent connection with anything. And so as they got older and jumping from house to house because they wasn't getting along with the parents, and a lot of times it's the foster parents too. They can treat the kid alienate them from the real family that's in the house.
And I will be the first to say that not every foster home is the best option. There has been times that kids have went to foster homes and suffered more abuse. And so we need the people who actually care. There are some people who try to get in it just for the money. And I don't understand that, because it's not $1 million, but people get in it and they get a check and they treat the kids poorly, and the kids are confused. Like, I could have just stayed at home with my parents if I was going to.
So your agency, one of the things about adoption option, I'm quite sure everybody said about the agency. This is something that y'all really pay attention to, the care and the workers that you have and working. Tell us about that integrity and how you care and how your work is, the work that they do, and your ethic behind that as a leader.
Yeah, I believe that, like I said earlier, that this is a calling for me. So I do take child permanency and child care very seriously. And so one of the things I will say is I do really good with putting together teams. And so I don't have a team of people that's doing it for the money. Social work is not about the money. We actually care about every family that come across our table. And to be able to bring my team to an agency who already had a leader who agrees the same. That's one thing about Miss Leapart. She will go, bend over backwards to help a family, even if that is at the cost of the agency. Not everything has to come from the state. Some things we just do because it's the right thing to do. And so I have built a team of people who agree that we all should do the next right thing. And so, what's in the best interest of a child? What's in the best interest of a family? What's in the best interest of our foster parents? How can we support you so that you can continue to provide love and support to the kids that are in your home?
True. And so, and how the community can help. We can provide safety and stability by fostering. You can offer permanency and belong by adopting and sponsor. You can fund support services and youth needs. There are life skill program that adoption option is doing, and
Yep.
there are children in the life skills. And that life skill program will be reaching out in the community to just a positive vibe with a lot of different businesses and people that's stakeholders in the community to have the buy-in and the connection.
Absolutely. So, the life skills class, our first one that we're starting in Wayne County starts in January 10th. It'll be on Saturday. It's an 8-week program where all we're doing is teaching kids how to live independently. So, from the ages of 14 to 21, you can come. We're doing things from showing them how to wash clothes to how to balance a budget or how to spend money. We're teaching them about healthy eating. We're teaching them about just being responsible. We're going to partner with Icon 10 and take them to the court so they can understand that process. Some of these kids have never had a supportive adult to show them how to open a bank account. What does it mean for hygiene? How to make a doctor's appointment? All of those things. So some of the things that you mentioned definitely is helpful, but we also have a hygiene closet need where we looking for body wash and toothpaste and toothbrushes. So when kids come in, we can give them a hygiene care kit.
Yeah.
We also do that for birth parents too, because if we have birth parents who suffering from substance abuse, sometimes they don't have those things. And so there are plenty of ways that you can get involved. Respite is another one where if you're listening to this and you're saying, I'm not ready to be a full foster parent, maybe you can provide a weekend so a foster parent can get a break.
I got a question. Time is running out.
Okay.
If I had a felony, can I foster?
You can.
Because a
So
lot of people don't know that.
you can. Having a felony does not exclude you from fostering unless it's criminal sexual conduct. Obviously, we can't place a child with you. And some DV, depending on the severity of it, but the time passed matters. And so don't let your situation prevent you from providing assistance. There's a number that you can call and get more information. Our foster care recruiter is Angela Smith, and you can reach her at 313-774-0915. Again, Angela Smith, foster care recruiter for adoption option 313-774-0915. And we do information sessions, and you can just come, it's on Zoom, and just listen and ask questions and figure out how do you fit in.
Thank you. I want to say in closing that every child deserves to feel safe, loved, and chosen. Right now, there are children in our own communities who are waiting and waiting for stability, waiting for support, waiting for someone to say that they matter. Foster care and adoption aren't just systems, they're lifelines as well. And while not everyone can foster or adopt, every one of us can do something. Support, you can sponsor, you can volunteer, or simply just speak up. And when we show up for families, fewer children fall through the cracks. And these are our children, and their future depends on what we do next. So I just want to take the time and say thank you for coming on the Community Bell Show. Um, Edna Bell wasn't with us here today. We send our love and care and concern to her, and hopefully she's back next week. And we want to thank Tamika Merriman and Adoption Option for talking to us about the need for foster care and having foster care here in the metropolitan Detroit area. Is it anything that you want to say in these last comments?
I'm just grateful to Miss Bell and to the show for being able to spread this information. I feel like when people know better, they do better.
Yeah.
And not knowing how severe the need is, not knowing how it's affecting our communities, not knowing how it's affecting our African-American children, especially the boys.
Yeah.
I think when people know that the need is there, that they will step up and get involved. And so I'm just grateful to be here.
I love that you come. Hey, for the Community Bell Show, it's the Community Bell Show. My bell wasn't here today. But hey, foster care, our children, the need to help our children, the need to support and sponsor. You can reach out to Adoption Option. I'm the White Hairs, I'm Icon 10. I'm the host for the day for the Community Bell Show. And I want to say thank you. Thank everybody for joining us. Please stay in contact with Miss Merriman, Tamika Merriman and Adoption Option. Stay in contact with us. Stay in contact with the Community Bell Show, the Sandy Rose Show. Thank you, Detroit. Thank you, Metropolitan Detroit area. Thank you for all the people around the country hearing us today talk about our children, our babies, the foster care system, adoption, and also family preservation. We want to save our family. We want to preserve our families. And this spectrum is across the board. It's not just Black is Black, brown, white, Chinese, all colors of children are affected by the foster care system. That system there's a need, and there's more of a need for people to work behind the system in support and helping those people that help the children that's in foster care. Thank you. It's the Community Bell Show. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Community Bell with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. This broadcast was brought to you by WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern to the Community Bell Show, right here on WVTC Radio Detroit. You're listening.
Okay. You ain't changing your mind now, have you?
We're about to be one big happy family.
I'm just hoping I can trust you to return my love.
I mean, as much as I know how to love.
Did you sleep with him?
No! This is toxic.
Don't become the thing that hurt you.
And what is that?
Bitterness.
I really needed you when Daddy died.
Girl, look, there you go with what you need. This not about you. Didn't you find God for that? I'm not here to meet your needs.
I understand that you love her. I get it. But like this, right here, this is toxic. Toxic? And who's you talking to like that?
And we're here at the Davidson High School for the first game of the season.
Look, I'm sorry, sir, but we were all running for our lives.
Hope you enjoy being used, man.
Man, what? No. You better find someone else to play with, bro.
Come right. You both know you ain't about to hit nothing but a high note. You better sit down.
My Bible tells me that the wages of sin is death.
That's wages, honey, not wedges.
I know what it says, Miss Sunday School teacher.
I see that one is coming to the altar.
Now is the time.
Singing and praying with my mind.
Cut.
How you gonna cut singing and praying?
Go Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.